this is Lego Podracing. Happy May 4th to all of my Lego Star Wars friends out there. I've built a pod racer, and it's the fastest one that's ever been built. Check out the link to see how I made the treadmill above. But for now, let's go to Watto's junkyard. This hunk of junk is actually a slight redesign of the pod racer from set 7962. Came out in 2011, so you can see we made a few modifications. Let's start with the engines. The core of the engine is the 3x6 by 2 2/3 dark gray cylinder. So you can see I've already got some cheese slopes, even got some mounted upside down with some half Technic pins. Now I'm mounting red slope underneath for the air intake, also with a brick with an axle hole so we can mount that later. The engine flaps are plates with a bar attached to a clip, and even with a yellow swimming fin added as well, just to get that trapezoid shape for fun. For the next part, I've used 2x2 round plate that are attached to the studs inside the cylinder. Then now I'm building out the back of the engine using hubcap piece, gear, also adding a 2x2 round plate with an octagonal bar, and then adding some single clips to go around to give that thruster look, so you can see kind of the individual flaps around the thruster. And then at the very end, I'm actually putting in a cone piece that I'm doing off camera for I don't know why. But then once I've got that cone piece attached, you can see it kind of fills out the back of the engine. And on the front part of the engine, I'm doing the same thing with the 2x2 round plate with the axle hole in the middle. This way I can stick the axle in and mount the front part of the engine. The next section contains two light bluish gray Technic wedge belt wheels stuck together, and then I also added some bushings sticking out on Technic half pin half axles, just to give it some texture. Now, to achieve the perfect triangular shape for the fins in front, we're using the light bluish gray hub with 3 axles on the front. You gotta make sure that you get it just right, otherwise it's not quite gonna fit. There's only 4 ways that this can go on, so I'm sure I'll figure it out eventually. Oh yeah, there it is. Good. Anyways, moving on. Now we're adding the hinge cylinders with the finger and axle hole on the ends of the slots. This is where we get to add those iconic yellow fins that really make this pod racer stand out. Now let's take a look at the air intake. We're going to start with the 2x2 round cylinder brick that's got an axle hole in the middle. This is a really excellent fit with a bicycle tire hanging out on a half Technic pin, half axle, mounted on a 2x2 round plate with the axle hole. Mounting this on the inside gives it a really good look, just like the air intake with all of the little filters on the inside. Then there's a 1x1 round brick, also using the little control lever and then just popping out the black control piece so it has a nice half sphere on the top. Really gets the look of the front of that engine nailed down very well. Alright, let's look at the pod. When working on the cockpit, I wanted to make sure that I took advantage of some of the parts from the original model, but also adding some new elements to really capture some interesting shapes, as well as the contouring of that really sleek cockpit. As you can see, I'm doing my best to use a lot of curved bow elements, especially the 1x2, as well as a number of snot bricks in order to get some interesting shapes, so we can get some of that curvature moving down the sides, but as well as getting the general structure of the cockpit so that it will actually hold a figure. Now, to be honest, you'll see that it's a little bit cramped in there, so we're trying to make sure that we get the gear, like the controls in there. We've got the engine display readout. We're putting on the wings and the general shape on the front with more curved bows, using those clips with bars in order to get an interesting angle, and then capping off the back using some snot brick technique, just so we can again get some intriguing slopes and angles. Yes, I took off Annie's legs. Yes, it's 2 movies early. However, in order to make sure that his head's in the right place, as well as his arms so he can reach the controls, I had to remove the legs and seat him on some 1x2 plates. Alright, let's build a frame and put this whole thing together. So we start out by using some Technic bricks, the 1x2 bricks that have the 2 holes. I'm going to actually use 2 of them together. We're going to attach them to some lift arms. Now I'm using these really special translucent clear 15 module straight lift arms, as well as these curved translucent clear lift arms. These pieces are absolutely wonderful to create a floating effect. Now do look here, it did take a number of tries, but there was a lot of time spent on trying to make sure that this balances out. So when I attach the engines, you'll notice that they actually kind of swivel around, and that's because I actually wanted them to be able to have some motion since they're going to be moving around on that large treadmill. But once we attach the flex tube, everything holds together pretty well, and you'll see that this has been set to be the perfect length, so it makes both of the engines pretty not lined up. Hold on, I'll fix that. So as you can see, now fix the length on the frame. So everything looks pretty good. Now it's time to put this on top of our flying joystick module. The Podracer's now been mounted on 2 sets of lift arms. You'll notice that at the bottom, they're wider than they are at the top. So that way, whenever they go side to side, there is now a rocking or gentle swinging motion that happens side to side. Let's take a zoom in on the mechanics happening underneath the Podracer. So you'll see that when I turn the joystick in the back, it's actually going to make the levers in the front go back and forth to create that swaying motion. I have a chain here that attaches the 2 gears that operates the short lift arm, which pushes and pulls the longer lift arm, that eventually drives the 2 longest lift arms that make the Podracer sway back and forth. I highly recommend checking out JK Brickworks' tutorial on the pursuit of flight, or also take a look at my Auspicious Dragon remix from earlier this year. One thing to mention is this Podracer is really heavy, so I had to add some extra bracing by using multiple lift arms on both sides, as well as a lift arm going across in order to make sure the Podracer didn't fold in on itself. But now that we kind of have this all set, let's mount this on the treadmill and see what this hunk of junk can do. You must subscribe to my channel. Like my video, 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 like my video.